Hey everyone, Guppy Girl here, and I'm sure by now you're wondering what the heck happened when I moved all of my fish to my new place in Georgia. Well, a lot happened. A lot of bad stuff happened, and I thought I was prepared, and obviously wasn't, and my fish paid the price, unfortunately. Not only was the process super stressful, but I felt like I just failed my fish, or at least the ones that didn't arrive. Now that I'm back into fish, I am ready to talk about my failures and successes. But honestly, the failure is all that I think about when I think about this whole process. Anyways, learn from my mistakes, guys. Let's get right into it. We decided to leave the apartment mostly because the neighbors that lived across from us were just harassing us all the time. And it wasn't just us, they were harassing everyone who lived near them. During that time period, my husband was also looking for a new job, so he took the one here in Atlanta, Georgia, where we are now. As stressful as it is to move, it was a giant relief for us to just be getting out of there because it felt like we were escaping. Fingers crossed that our next move will be moving into a house and not another apartment. Prepping the fish room for moving was a huge process. I first started by giving away all of the fish that I didn't want to take with me. I just wanted to take the bare minimum of the stuff that I wanted to keep. So, a lot of fish I gave away, and a lot of plants and hardscape and other equipment stuff that I didn't need anymore. I put that as cheap as possible because I just wanted to get it out of the fish room and not have to worry about it anymore. Next thing I did was I packaged all the plants. I did this about a week in advance before we had to ship out all the plants. And the first hurdle that I had to face was that I needed to keep these plants alive in a hotel room for 2 weeks while we waited for all our stuff to arrive to our new location. For the plants, what I did was I got net cups and rock wool, and instead of just placing the plants directly into the rock wool, I cut it open, put a little scoop of aqua soil in there. Then I put them into the fish bags with a little bit of water, sprayed it a whole ton with just a normal sprayer of dechlorinated aquarium water. I've seen a lot of people deflate their bags when they're shipping plants, so there's like no air in the bag. I'm not quite sure the reason for this, other than maybe it's a cheaper shipping cost and you can fit more plants in a box. For me, I didn't deflate the bag. A few days before I bagged up all of the plants in their little baggies, I had them sitting in these temporary tubs just to hold them for a while I was taking all the plants and hardscape out of the permanent tanks. Then there were the fish and shrimp and everything else alive. Basically, I started taking them out 1 to 2 days before we had to ship them. I was putting them in these, I guess you can call them Tupperware containers, just to hold them for a while before I had to bag them up. The night before we had to ship all the fish out, I bagged all of the fish up, cleaned all of the tanks as best as I could, removed gravel, everything, all of that. And I quickly realized I didn't have enough bags. Now, I think this was one of the fatal flaws that I made with my fish and shipping them was that I couldn't double bag all of my fish, and these weren't particularly very thick bags. They were labeled as shipping bags on Amazon, but after using these in the fish swap that I attended a few days ago, some of them did leak. Out of like 50 bags, like 3 of them leaked, and that's not very good odds when you're shipping a ton of fish in these bags. These weren't breather bags, they were just normal bags, so I put, half water, half air. And when I put them in the box, I did line the box with this thin foam. This was probably some of the best stuff I did to prevent the box from getting wet, although I really should have put all of the fish baggies in a normal grocery plastic bag. Another big mistake that I made that I thought would be fine was I didn't line the inside of the boxes with any foam or anything like that. We just ran out of time when we were packing everything, so I thought it would be okay. I'm beginning to think that it really wasn't because these USPS priority boxes were pretty heavy with so much water that they had. I was talking to my husband about it as I was freaking out when boxes weren't arriving to our new location, and because he works as a packaging handler person, he was telling me that anything heavy always goes at the bottom when they're filling up the planes with packages. So I think what happened was everything else that was heavy also went on top of these boxes. And without that extra support of a foam layer around the whole inside of the box, it would be really easy for something super heavy to just crush the box and then pop some bags. So I think that also is what probably happened during shipping. When we got to Atlanta, we already had bought the apartment. We just didn't have any of our stuff because that was also getting shipped to the new location. So I did ship my fish to our new address. When they weren't arriving on time, I started really freaking out. I was constantly checking USPS tracking number and calling them every day. Eventually, 12 of the 14 packages arrived, and even though I paid for priority shipping, it took a really long time because there was like a tropical storm happening here in Georgia. And then they were going through some building construction, so they changed the building that they were supposed to ship packages to. This later became a huge issue when I was trying to go to the post office that my package arrived at. It was just sitting in some office somewhere for a few days and it said it had been shipped. Tried to go to the location where it said it was at, and people always redirected me to different buildings. And I know my box was probably sitting in the post office leaking water, and that's why they didn't want to send it. But no one contacted me to tell me which post office, and I went to every single one, and they all denied that they had my package. So, yeah, that was just really frustrating. Whenever I called USPS, they told me that someone would get back to me and they were like, oh, we escalated your ticket. And I think they escalated it like 3 times at that point. And after 3 weeks of the package arriving and calling them constantly and no one ever getting back to me, I gave up. By 3 weeks, I was pretty sure my fish weren't alive anymore. To this day, never heard back from USPS, no emails, no phone calls, no nothing. It was just left as that. I didn't put any stickers of live animals or write anything like that on the packages. I just put fragile, handle with care. And the reason for this was that when my husband worked as a package handler, sometimes the employees thought it was funny to shake the boxes. So I didn't want to put my fish at risk, and I'm not going to say what company he worked for, but it wasn't the company's fault. These are employees with, little pea-sized brains, right? So I didn't want to put my fish at risk of being shaken just for the fun of it. So I didn't write that on the box, although maybe if I did, they wouldn't have thrown away my boxes without telling me. That's just what I'm assuming would happen. I could have filed a claim saying I wanted my money back for the boxes. I didn't do this because I was just really depressed at the time. The money really wasn't an issue. It was like the contents of the package, and I was super defeated. Not gonna lie, I broke into tears more than once. And even now, it still hurts. It wasn't just me at fault, but I definitely could have done more to prevent this from happening. So, what did I learn from this experience? Well, first of all, order way more bags than you think you'll need, double bag everything. Also, line the inside of all the boxes with thick styrofoam so the boxes don't get crushed. And if possible, probably the best way to transport your own fish to a new location if you have to take a plane is to take them on the plane with you. I didn't know you could actually do this in the USA and found this out after I moved, but definitely an option if you don't have too many fish or just a lot of small nano fish like I did. If I had known about this, I would have definitely probably taken all of my fish on the plane with me and shipped all the plants. When I packed everything in my suitcase that I thought I would need for my fish at the new location, there were some really good things I brought and then some things that I completely forgot about. And of course, some kind of bin or multiple bins to put your fish in. I couldn't fit any bins in my suitcase with me because I also took some lights to light up bins after we got to our location for all the plants. So when we got to Atlanta, we just went to a Target and picked up a few plastic bins over there. I also picked up a bucket at Target and a 1 liter water bottle to measure out my water for pre-mixing my tap water and dechlorinator. Like and subscribe if you liked this video. Hopefully you learned something from my experiences, and stay tuned for part 2 where I'll be sharing my experiences of living in a hotel room for 2 weeks with all of my fish.